Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Out of Band, a Microsoft security podcast. I'm Andrew O'Young, a modern work pre-sales specialist at Digger Data, also Microsoft MVP in the security space, focusing on Intune. I'd also like to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year. Xin nian kuai le, kung hei fa choi. And also hope that you have a prosperous and healthy year of the snake 2025.
Hi everyone, I'm Shehan. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Intune and Identity Access Management. Welcome back.
I'm Anthony Porter, Cloud Security Architect at Canon Business Services, specializing in the Intune and Defender space.
Awesome. Well, let's get in some news from the last week or two. One that really hits close to home is that there is now going to be a new exam and certification around information protection in M365. So the old Information Protection Administrator exam, SC400, will be retired at the end of the year, and it will be replaced with the SC401, which is going to be roughly the same content in terms of information protection. They're going to remove all the compliance related content out of that and turn those into what's now known as an applied skill. So you can take those applied skills credentials. It's a 2-hour sandbox where you can showcase your understanding of the compliance solutions and so on. But with the SE401, it's going to be all heavily focused on information protection, so labeling, sensitivity types, and so on. And there's also a victim
Ah,
in this.
look, so I guess a bit of a backstory is I this is probably SC400 is my most recent exam that I've gotten, so a bit of me is a bit gutted that I personally thought this was one of the harder ones that I've sat, and I've got a couple, and so I agree that this should be split out in terms of its contents because the 400 started to really bridge multiple job roles, where I believe Microsoft's doing a really good job in kind of aligning job roles to certifications. But yeah, I guess I'm a bit gutted in the sense of I feel like SC 400 is proof that you could do both, and now they're retiring it. Then you have to reprove that you can do half of it, where the other half obviously is their applied skills. Now, I'm all for that side of things. But look, it is. I think you made mention that SC400 is retiring at the end of the year. I think it's mid-year. I think it's
I mean,
middle of the
okay.
year that it's retiring. It's
Right.
May
Well,
31st.
the renewal window, your last chance
Yes.
is, I believe, end of May. So the 401 goes into beta from next Tuesday slash Wednesday, the
Yeah.
11th.
Yeah.
So look out for the tech community blog post. There's probably going to be an 80% of beta code. The trick of those is it's 20% of the cost, but you take the exam, you don't find out if you pass it until it becomes generally available, and maybe it's 2 weeks after that. So it does become available in May. So we'll find out in June-ish, but if you've got a renewal coming up before then, you get to keep the 400 cert for another year, but it's very different to the other ones that they've done the same kind of thing. So whenever they increment the exam number, generally it's a change of content, or they're consolidating the exams required for a certification. So you see a bunch of those that require 2, now you just need 1. And there's a little bit of I don't know if it's pity or if it's compassion, where they let you automatically inherit the new certification. But in this case, I think there's enough major change in the content that they require you to retake a new exam.
I
I,
think just reading the documentation regarding the exam change, I think they're adding skills like AI stuff as well, which is crucial at this stage. Which
Mm,
is purview stuff aligning with as well. So we can definitely add this link in our description, so it gives
yeah,
the date
yeah.
and what you
certainly.
need to
And
do.
for the people watching the podcast, we'll just do a quick segue to show you some of that new purview capability for AI. So let me just share my screen. Technology, right? There we go. So this is a nice infographic. So the guy that created it is Ray Ray's, and he's done a lot of work in the purview space. So the last or the previous thing he did was around similar concept of the fundamentals, recommended actions, and then so on. But in terms of overall purview, so for M365 and so on, this is more around the data security posture management for AI. And as you can see here, it's got the the same kind of principles of purview, so data security, governance, risk, and compliance, but it focuses more heavily on the use of AI, large language models, and Copilot, and even third-party AI solutions. So, it's a
Going
great
into
resource to have.
going into a bit more detail of this, I've been playing a lot in this DSPM for AI space as of recent. I think that I guess going back to that whole SC 400 to 401 is Shehan's absolutely right. This is a lot more in regards to AI within the data and security space rather than it being 399 where they've moved the compliance. They've forward make it a 4. But I think a main component of that is how data security plays with area of AI, and DSPM for AI is an amazing function. If
So
you
it's going to capture, it's going to capture all the name changes and the new features announced during Ignite in November.
Absolutely. I think one of the key things that I've really, I guess, taken like accustomed to within the SPM for AI space is the recommendations. Now, if you are a consultant or someone that's doing the space of, I guess, data security, the recommendation space for DSPM for AI isn't just for AI. Yes, there is a large emphasis in towards protection of your information for AI. But even if you are greenfields or looking to get, just got E5 licensing, compliance licensing, the recommendations also gives you a really good understanding into what's happening within your environment related to your data, and then actually bases some of the recommendations related to that. So it will look at, so I can see right in the middle of the screen is the information protection, protect your files with labels. What that will do is it will look at your environment, like figure out if you have sensitivity labels, and if not, it'll actually give you like a single click prompt and have a set of what is considered probably a default label. So general all the way through to highly confidential. I'm also giving you those tips that would be included. And yeah, once again, even just the ability to define what labels should potentially be involved in a prevent from Microsoft 365 Copilot as in almost a single click action. It's an amazing function to have.
I think they are just bringing the same defender functionalities when it comes to those recommendations and what needs to be done as defender looks at your tenants, your devices, your endpoints to say these are the vulnerable devices right now in that recommendation for that section. What do you want to do? So something like this. I think they are bringing the same capabilities into the purview that DSPM section as well.
So previously they had, what is it, compliance score, which is very similar to secure score. There's also compliance manager, which actually has these templates of certain, I guess, controls that you can do, but it's not automatic. It's you got to self-report. So have you done this action or this control, and then you tick it off, and then at the end of it you go, I've done my piece in terms of this regulation. Like Essential Aid, NIST, and so on. You can do it through that, but there are new ones coming out for AI specifically.
Yeah, there's the ethical behaviors. I do believe some of the controls that it monitors are automated if it can see within where they would be normally deployed, such as Intune, for example. But you're absolutely right. The majority of it is manual. But it allows you to essentially use it as a case folder for you to be able to link where your evidence sits, so everyone knows you can say you do it, show us. It's an awesome application for that to be. Once again, encapsulating it in the Purview suite.
All right, I'll stop sharing that. Cool. I guess what else is new? You've got a new blog that's come out, Anto.
Yeah, sure have.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's a bit of a blog series, I guess I'd like to call it. I'd say it's. I feel like the idea of the migration to the cloud is almost like it should be achievable, but when you start to really dig into the work that goes into it, a lot of people start to almost turn their head, I don't have enough stakeholders, or I don't have enough individuals that are skilled in that
Feel.
space and whatnot. So I've just started up a new, I guess, series in which I've called it Quick Wins, because everybody likes the low hanging fruit. And yeah, specifically my recent quick wins has been in regards to the migration of your traditional group policy into Microsoft Intune, which is an endpoint management platform within the cloud, and specifically using the group policy analytics. Have you guys used the group policy analytics function before, or?
Yeah, I've used it a couple of times. Pretty much first as a test, and then when helping the customers as well. I think you have seen the same when getting the backed up XML file and uploaded it to group policy modeling analytics part. It says, all right, so there are probably 50 settings in that policy, but it's not everything matching with Intune. So there are, what's compatible. So basically you can just create your own settings, because there's a different place that actually getting applied those settings. So maybe there's a different way that Intune can help you on that. But most of the settings that coming from the group policy, it basically creates you the actual policy itself within Intune, which is good. Yeah,
Absolutely. So I guess in my recent article, it's been almost a case of, everybody, if you're still operating within a group policy environment on premises, it's likely not been maintained and kept as nicely as you probably mentioned wanted it to be when you started. Policies get created for single use, and you have multiple policies that do the same job, and they're just seeded into each other. So I guess the idea is that group policy in itself can be one of those mammoth tasks, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. And so this article obviously starts to go into some of the benefits associated to group policy analytics. And as Shehan said, that the I guess my key takeaways from it is that streamlined migration. Shehan mentioned you literally just export the group policy as you would any other function, and it is a export and import. What that would then do is run an analysis over the top and essentially provide you a report or an analytics associated to the operations, defining where they sit within your GPO, if they're supported within MDM, if they're depreciated in terms of their relativity in the environment, but then also gives you that pane glass. There's a pane right at the top when you upload all of your group policies. It'll say, your 80% of your environment is ready to go, but these 20 are not. And it gives you, the functionality to be able to go and control and view what that looks like. One of the, I guess, my key takeaways is the ability to consolidate policies. So as Shehan mentioned, you can essentially group, chuck in all 50 or so of your group policies you have in your environment, and then you can merge group policies in one configuration profile, which allows you to almost re-clean up what would have potentially been a fairly messy group policy. That also allows you to consolidate settings. So if it identifies that one setting is present in 10 group policies, it will split that and you'll only have one of the settings. So you could almost use this as a migration into the cloud, but also then just to, start from a clean slate again, whilst making it as seamless as genuinely a couple of clicks and you're in, and it's good to go.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So just one more thing to add there. And so as you said, when you're consolidating and when you have your XML files, and if there's a matching policy in Intune, you can just select whatever let's say out of 100, if you want just 10 policies, because most of the stuff are just legacy coming from group policy. You can just then and there select your settings and then create your new policy then and there, because you don't need to do anything, because it's just there's a matching setting in Intune, so which is really good as well. That's what I found out when doing some merging and migrating some policies. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so for consolidating, that would be the best way to go.
Absolutely,
say.
yeah. Where some of the settings essentially it results back to a CSP or like a catalog, which would be your what it referenced on premises doesn't match what it references.
Yep.
And once again, as you said, it you can if you have a policy which actually does multiple different functions, the ability to select which settings you would like to be split out. Maybe it's not for everybody anymore, and you want to potentially only have it for a certain
Yeah.
well a
Hmm.
group of devices or scope of devices, rather than OU, for example. You can do that all from that single pane, which makes it a lot easier to migrate and look.
One of
Yeah,
the challenges, I'll quickly just go through with just one challenge I faced. I wanted to migrate a CIS policy into Intune, like a desktop policy. Of course, because it's group policy, there are lots of things which are not available in Intune today. So had to make sure what's the closest policy which actually talks to the same location in the OS. So there was, couple of settings which are not available, but it was a bit of a task to get into that end goal of getting all the CIS settings into the desktop. But yeah, it's achievable if you know the correct keywords, for an example, and if you have basically played with Intune and group policies for a long time. Yeah, then definitely, even though in the first glance you can't see some of the settings available, but if you know where to find them, correct, as I mentioned, correct keywords, you'll be able to create the policy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yeah, some policies have naming convention changes and whatnot.
Correct.
But I mean, as someone who's put together the CIS but like manually within Intune, I'd much prefer do a migration and pick up the 100 that didn't work than do the
Yes.
500 that you'd need to do
Correct.
scratch. So look, it's one of those. Yeah, look, there's still work to be done, but it can vastly speed up the process and probably make a cleaner outcome function
Yeah.
policy. So yeah, look, so that's the
hmm.
article that I've chucked out. I plan to probably do one a week where once again will target almost what would be those low hanging fruits within the management space, specifically for Intune. But then I guess I'll probably move towards the Defender platform as well because there's a lot that happens in that space. And then I'd like to also start looking at what that looks like in terms of Entra, given that we've all of a sudden now got the Entra suite, which gives us a lot of capability.
Very good. And I believe I heard something or read something about the administrative templates being retired. So it's now fully settings catalog.
Correct. So that's all available in the settings catalog. Do you want to talk about that, Anto?
Yeah, I mean that pretty much encapsulates it. It's so the functionality of I guess the administrative templates is being moved. Everybody kind of defaults to setting catalogs these days. Using the admin templates was kind of I guess in my opinion a stepping stone between like a knowledge gap where as is you could essentially just go to a settings catalog and do the settings as an administrative template rather than just defaulting to a template. But I think that then allows you to then start to merge all the other capabilities into one policy rather than um, obviously defaulting back. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think I think just summarized everything related to that. Yeah. So settings catalog is the my place to go as well. Whenever I first check the templates to see if it's available. But sometimes there can be more settings which I want, which is not available in that template. So then I have to go for the actual settings catalog and pick and choose manually. Yeah, which still works.
I think the ability to almost settings catalog is almost like having multiple admin templates available. Whereas if you select one specific admin template, you kind of stuck to
In the one policy. Yeah.
that policy set, right? Where I think in where modern endpoint configuration, we're moving towards the ability to do multiple things, not have to have multiple policies, configuration profiles to do exactly what you're trying to do. a pure example would be the ability to set up an entire security baseline for your environment in a settings catalog. Whereas if you additionally use templates, you'd obviously need to select one defender specific or blocker specific smart screen, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Look, bad example, but good example, same sense, right? Whereas settings catalog allows you to collapse that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, a bit of a segue, but also into what else is new. I think Shehan's got a new infographic to share with us.
Yeah, actually, the version 3 of my IntuneMaps.com website, which I created a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah, so I'll quickly share my screen.
For those that are listening in, we'll share the links out to you in the show notes afterwards.
All right, so this is it. Did some more tinkering this time, adding our podcast into the list as well. So as you can see, it's version 3. I mainly created this a bit about the whole concept, why I wanted to create this Intune Maps. Mainly because we all know, because we are using the Learn documents day in, day out, they are they are very useful, but sometimes the chances are we can get lost in those documents, and it can, the whole tangent can change when we are in those documents. So I personally have experienced that. So I thought, all right, so what if I take Intune, but what if I take the Intune Windows side of things and then do a clickable infographic, to make sure if someone wants to learn Intune or go to the next step from what they are in right now, this would be helpful. So I chunked it out to different sections, like if you're in the planning, what needs to be done, that can connect to your devices, so Windows devices in that case, and that can connect to conditional access policies. Devices, definitely autopilot would come in, how to prepare our devices. So as you can see, I added the new tags for some of the sections. So they are all what Intune added in the last couple of months. So for example, the autopilot version 2. So in other words, what I want to show here is, when someone clicks on that link, it will go into the proper. Can you guys still see my screen?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. There you go. It goes to the proper Learn document, and from there you can navigate through, go to the next page, whatever, or come back to the Intune Maps to see what else is available. So again, for example, assignments. So there are different ways of assigning or targeting your policies into the devices, users, and whatnot. So, device filters are available, and also that's for dynamic groups are as well. Again, the enrollment time grouping is a new concept that came with the autopilot version 2. So to learn more about that, that's available here. Copilot in Intune, those capabilities. Yeah, so some of the stuff, there are lots of connectors and tokens. I took whatever the important or the top stuff that's available in the portal. Yeah, again, device onboarding, which is via Intune to Defender for endpoint, and whatever the licensing, the tagging, how tagging works and stuff like that. VMs and AVD, which is a new thing that was added into Intune. So how to manage devices via Intune, AVD and VMs. What else? And yeah, a bit on the log analytics stuff as well, because pretty much everyone is using Intune, but hardly people add a log analytics workspace to get more insights out of the devices, or about the devices, and also the advanced analytics. Is that right? Is that the
Yeah,
correct word?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming to the scene as well, and also endpoint analytics. What sort of things that devices tell, and how you can take informative, business decisions. Let's say, what's the battery health of my current fleet, for an example. So you can check those stuff by using log analytics and auditing those devices. Troubleshooting tools as well. So resources, what's new in Intune? So it goes to the tech community stuff. Any technical takeoffs, that basically community, that's a community event in Microsoft. And the high level architecture, which was released a couple of years ago, I think. Quickly can show. It's pretty much the same thing that I discussed, but in a more graphical way. So yeah, version 3 is now available. I'm keep on updating this as the new stuff coming into the scene. I've got a lot of good comments from the community as well. So happy to do the changes. I got a GitHub page opened as well. If someone got any suggestions and everything, can comment on that. So that's intunemaps.com. So it's basically intunemaps.com, and you will go to that website.
I must
No,
say,
so
I was
yeah,
going to say, I personally play in the Intune a lot. Having to navigate the MS Learn side of things is quite a lot. You're absolutely right. You sometimes get on a side quest halfway through it, and you go and find,
Yep.
oh, this links to this, and you go off. And I think even just your flow of how things are, from device onboarding and how that works, all the way through to whatnot, it's an amazing source. And it's probably makes a lot of sense that everybody's kind of hung on to resource, because no different to, I guess, the quick wins of it is that it doesn't need to be as complicated as it may appear. So no, that's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. With being a visual representation of the index, it makes it a lot easier to go, this is what I'm looking for, straight in. I think another thing you could add on top of that, maybe, because your Microsoft Learn has
V4.
the doc side of things, and then there's the learning side of things, right? So yeah, I did see a link to the training plans, but maybe if you had something that goes directly to like the modules or the learning paths as part of the certification training materials, you could also have that, do that as well for those that are interested in taking the exam. So it could be a potential feature request there.
MD 102, I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We only just got V3. Let's wait around for V4. All right.
Yeah.
Create a
Well,
bit of
then,
hype.
yeah, well, let them cook. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple of requests like that. People are asking, are you doing anything for the Mac stuff? iMac, sorry, not iMac, sorry. I iPhones, iOS, for example, mobile side of things. And also, I tried to add. Actually, I removed in the version 3. The version 2 had the templates, a different page for templates. So again, what are the templates available? But the templates are keep on changing. For an example, the administrative templates are going on, right, like they are going out of the scene. So rather than just showing off what's in the templates, because everyone is now going towards the whole settings catalog, as we discussed, so maybe I'll take that out. And also the templates are very follow the bouncing ball sort of a thing, so it's nothing more to discuss there. Yeah.
I guess without actually spoon feeding how to do everything in Intune, I think what it encapsulates itself is definitely the point in the direction to.
Yep.
But yeah, I think obviously I actually didn't look for any sort of learning material, but yeah, even if there is learning material outside of MS Learn, which might be of use, whether it be community resources or so, from other Intune related MVPs, start to join dots, because what you might not necessarily capture, you might source fellow MVP.
Yep.
Yeah, heaps of training platforms out there with relevant content that may complement what you've got there.
Yeah.
Speaking of Intune and Shehan, let me share my screen again. So next Wednesday we have our February meetup for the Adelaide Microsoft IT Pro Community User Group. Well, bit of a behind the scenes, Shehan is actually joining as a co-organizer for the user group. So you'll see him a lot more at the events, but we'll have him on to present on attack surface reduction rules through the Defender platform. So yeah, the details will be sent out, but essentially, yeah, it'll be a hybrid event. So if you aren't based in Adelaide, feel free to join via Teams, and we'll kick off around that 3:30 p.m. Adelaide time.
I think it'll be an interesting one. Very high level rather than just spin the beans. Basically, everyone knows how to create a policy and add those rules, but before adding and putting them into the active mode, there are lots of things that needs to be done behind the scene. It's more like a preparation. I would say same crawl, walk, and run needs to be adhered to as well. So I'll be talking about those stuff and what can be enabled first in the um, the policy rule set, and what comes after that. How do you monitor those issues and basically any disruptions, and how do you monitor any attacks, those sort of stuff. So yeah, I'll be discussing everything before you enabling those policies on Wednesday.
Not to, I
Great
guess,
as.
not to spoil it, but where do you see the best monitoring coming from for ASR? Do you think it's within the Defender suite, or is it something within Intune itself?
I would say not Intune, but Defender, yes, and also KQL. Defender reporting, yes, because reporting would give you all the graphical stuff, which is nice. But again, yeah, it's a combination of reporting in Defender as well as KQL as well. KQL can go much deeper when it comes to those sort of things. Yeah, so
Probably then
combination.
segues back to your comment of please log your device in, like what's happening on your devices. Otherwise, KQL probably won't be able to do.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I think even in tune you can enforce the policy, but I think I haven't seen anything that reports wise that you can check what's being captured or what has gone wrong with the cake. Sorry, with the ASR policies. But because the enforcing or the whatever the capturing and blocking is done by the defender side of things, so I think in that case, Defender would be the way to go.
I think that's where it comes down to. I think Defender's doing a really good job of enhancing that endpoint security
Yes.
section of Intune. So not only just with the ASR, but even just the integrated data, manage some of these. I noticed on your Intune maps, you had a section which was more specifically in regards to how you would manage through MD into Intune
Correct.
via the enforcement scope, and even the
Yep.
device. I noticed the device filtering tags, so Microsoft senses if it's going through that path, MD if it's not,
Yes.
and so
NDE
once again,
management. Yeah,
props
exactly.
to you. But yeah, that Microsoft has done a real good job of kind of unifying that security side of what we need to know in that space within the portal.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, it's going side by side always. But specifically, if you don't have the security administrator or security reader or whatever the role are back in the security side of things, Intune, if you got the Intune access, like an administrator, they can still work on those policies and assign and do all the stuff. But for all the advanced stuff that's coming from the security side of things, then the Defend XDR portal will come into play, and anyone who's got the that specific skills with the RBAC, then they can go in and do all the investigations and all the advanced stuff.
I guess probably not to go on a rant on it, but I'd say the Intune RBAC. Have you had to set up the Intune RBAC before, like in?
Yeah, a couple of times. In general, most of um, the places that I've worked or people that I've helped to, well, because it's most of the time just probably just one team looking at the Intune. So it's not segregated. So in that case, they are not 100% concerned about the RBAC. But even though it's RBAC, it's not just in time. So either you create your PIM groups and then assign that PIM group. So it's like, you have to have your P2 license for Entra, of course. And then you assign that group and then you assign PIM to that group. And then, elevating, and then you will get the access. It's a combination, but it's not, it's not inbuilt. If you go with the inbuilt way, the person who got the, let's say, those custom RBAC, they would have that forever.
Right. I think it makes sense. I think that's where all of the side of things is going as well, as to that PIM functionality, being able to essentially bundle multiple sets of, I guess, configuration, or even I see PIM for groups as almost like PIM for job role, like where what job role or what hat am I putting on right now? Am I going to be endpoint security today, or am I going to be help desk, or am I going to be clients? All of those kind of touch different areas of suites, so no different to endpoint security in Intune, having visibility Defender. You might also need access to, the conditional access in Entra or sign-in logs, because
Yes.
you're trying to do a full end. And that PIM for groups, I think, comes. I guess probably more on it is the configuration within the RBAC of Intune. I've had to set it up. I've had to separate it and segregate it apart. And I guess, yeah, on a personal, I'd probably say it could be simplified. There is a lot of very granular controls which you can implement, which might not necessarily be required or could be grouped into others. I'm all for the least privilege when it comes to access and security. But also I think there's an element where you overcomplicate it, you likely will either disrupt or overshare in. And I think I'm looking at other platforms such as the Defender suite, where you're doing roles and rights within Defender. They simplify it into, genuinely, I think there's 8 or 9 tick boxes, which is amazing, and it gives you everything. And then likewise within the Defender for Cloud Apps, Defender for Identity, you get a really simplified option set of RBAC associated to what a job role might entail for a specific type or software. Whereas I think Intune still alignment. But obviously not to go on a rant. But I think that
I'd like to take a step back for the people playing at home. Shehan mentioned Entra ID Plan 2. So the service we're looking at here is the Entra ID governance. So you're looking at the privileged identity and the privileged access management. So instead of assigning an admin role, you essentially assign the eligibility to be assigned that role. So then you can then request that access or that role in a certain time frame, and it gets vetted, it gets approved, and then it's activated, so you can do your administrative tasks in that timeline. And if it time lapses, you request an additional period. So that's things like that are going to reduce the surface area of potential members having admin access longer than they should. And if their account gets breached in whatever way possible, then it's a bit messier after that.
Yeah, I think the PIM for groups, let's say if you forget about the whole RBAC side of things, basically, let's say if you want to be a resource, let's say if you talk about Azure, if you want to be a member of a resource group, for an example, so you can just add that group there for that resource, and then when you elevate your access, that means you will be a member of that group. So for that number of hours, with your reasoning, of course, then you will have that access for that specific resource, or it can be a resource, or it can be for example, if you're using Azure Files, can be for that file share. So you'll be a member for that in that group for whatever the reason. So it's again going through the whole PIM just in time, just enough access way just to get access to whatever you want, and then once you're done, you're out.
Good stuff. All right. I think just the other day it was announced Microsoft Build. Now, for those who are not familiar with this one, this is the developer conference that Microsoft runs. So it'll cater to no code, low code, pro code, members of the developer public. But it is really around their business applications, so Power Platform, Dynamics, and so on. But at the same time, it's going to be a lot of Copilot agents or custom Copilots. So we have seen a lot of news in the last month regarding these becoming available. And there's also that growing fear of, is it going to be secure? Is it going to be, how's it going to be governed? So I did see that in preview there is a Copilot hub for governance and compliance, but I think that's more for Power Platform side of things. But again, it's data security, information protection, governance, and all that. It still falls within our literal purview, pun intended. So we do need to be across that. So look forward to May 19th to 22nd US time at Seattle, but we'll catch the online virtual event, of course, and hope to see what the latest is around obviously AI and the securing of that AI.
I think even echoing that, if you missed the summer boot camp, which us Aussies got to not have to wake up at midnight to attend, that is still available on demand, so you can select those sessions and watch them on demand. 3-day event, I believe 6 hours every single day, of 30 to 1 hour bite sizes of genuinely everything in regards to data security, AI, Azure development, etc. Which once again we covered off a bit in the last episode of this podcast. But if you, I believe it's still about a month and a half of allowing that demand. So yeah, by all means, if you haven't looked at those, certainly should.
Because every 6 months we've got there's build and then there's ignite, so you got that 6-month period in between all the news announcements, renames, retirements, and so on. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff to take in and keep on top of.
I guess speaking of things that are departing, we got the heads up that WSUS is way out the door, which obviously I think that's just a natural progression towards the future. I think WSUS has been one of those things that has been a cornerstone of probably every IT employee at some stage or another, or probably now showing my age a bit. But I pretend I'm not. But everybody has had to deal with WSUS at some stage or another. If you haven't, welcome to IT. But yeah, they've recently announced that it's no longer being.
Yeah, so I think they are not taking any new feature requests or any developments. For
Not an outright retirement, but it's we're not going to touch it anymore. So essentially, it'll go in the near future.
Yeah.
Not even. I think when there's such platforms such as Intune now taking a bit more of a front foot forward approach, and the ability to have auto patch or update rings in general, towards modernization, and WSUS just kind of sat.
I think one of the major reasons it's still being used is also systems and a config manager, right? So SCCM is still pretty prevalent out there. There are some places using co-management with Intune, but give it another X number of years, it's just all going to be Intune and auto patching. I think they obviously Microsoft tried to retire SCCM 5 or so years ago, and when the general community, pitchfork in hand comes up saying, please don't retire this, we still need it, then Microsoft goes, okay, we'll keep supporting this product for X number of years and keep adding features to it. But eventually they'll just go, nah, that's it.
We'll patch it, but that's about the. And you're absolutely right. I think they've also done a really good job towards that co-management component where it's almost like it's almost no-brainer not to just enable co-management environment if you're operating in a hybrid. The functionality to just enable co-management, just keep playing in config for that time period until. But even just enabling the functionality, it almost gives you that. It's sometimes the hardest part of the journey is that first step. It's finding, all right, now we're going to start doing it. And I feel like even just taking that step to configure, once again, it's quite simple. It's genuinely a couple of clicks to enable co-management, but it's sometimes that first step. Even then, to be able to see what workloads are available, where does that look like in terms of Intune, and how can we start progressing, opens up those doors towards quick win.
Well, calls back to the group policy analytics, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, apps as well. I've seen where we are happy to move into Intune and manage our applications and push applications via Intune, but we have this many number of applications at the moment which we are still using config manager to do the stuff for. So it's definitely not an overnight change. So we had to get those applications, probably repackage it to Intune, so it's Intune readable. Different ways those applications can be moved into, migrate into, and then so slowly move the switch. So I believe it's the same thing for config profiles as well. Where are they coming from? Config manager or Intune, and group policies as well. So in a bigger environment, I would say it's definitely a gradual process of slowly piloting it off and then moving the workload switch to Intune end, and then you're all good to go in the cloud. But for a medium-sized business, or let's say if you're a new business, obviously, then you need the config manager. Or if you're a small business or medium business, you're still using, I believe it's relatively easier to move into Intune. Or let's say if a decision can be made, any new device that's provisioned from this day onwards will be Intune managed. So if you got the right policies, probably the same policies, and if you are tested, if they're working fine on Intune, you can just keep going with the Intune and slowly move the other devices into Intune.
I think once again, if you're still using WSUS, you're likely still config manager or SCCM or whatever you refer to it with org. Now's the best time to move that workload for Windows updates over to Intune and start looking at auto patch or that functionality, because you'll see the similarities pretty quickly. And really, I think the ability to, not to go into dive into auto patch, I'm sure that cover that in a bit more detail in another episode, but the ability to define what would be your rings, your pilot, your deployment, your important please don't touch accounts or devices, and then the ability to kind of randomize and roll the dice on the rest. So you'd still be able to set up your deadlines and your when you must reinstall by to your pilot group, certain delay period that you require within your business, week for some of their critical infrastructure. Some might have a couple days. The ability to almost and then chuck the rest into like a random roll the dice. You might get it the next day. You might get it in 2 days. Randomized. It's now is probably the best time to start opening that door if you're still in config manager, looking towards what that looks like in terms of that could be step into.
And another thing we really need to be considering is it's about 8 months and Windows 10 end of life. So it's a good time to start considering what you're going to do with Windows 11, Intune, autopilot, and so on. So moving away from whatever legacy management you may have. So yeah.
I
Bit
think
of a concept change as well. I think WWSUS, what everyone is asking, how do I approve or decline the updates going forward? So there's no concept of approving or declining the updates. It's just there, but what you have is the update rings where keep the gap between those rings, and then you have time to if you see a buggy update on that test, then you can definitely roll back and then stop pause.
I guess talking
we
from
touch on our namesake here. So what about out of band updates?
Exactly.
well, I think that comes back to, I think if you're going to, expect one of those out of bands, the source that's probably going to get it the first, first is your cloud suite and not your system that's
And not to
waiting for the
mention,
download on a
We
reoccurring
expedite
basis.
them, right? Yeah.
a hot
Absolutely.
patch as well.
Oh yeah.
Which
No need
is
to reboot. Yeah.
review, yeah. So that's exciting. Yet to test, but yeah, want to test very badly to see how it actually works. I saw that in my tenant couple of days ago. It's available in the preview. So yeah, happy to test that. So
Yeah. That's for Windows 11 and Windows Server 2025 moving
that
forward.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
22 is in Azure, but 25 on-prem or outside of Azure also available.
Devices, sorry, the
Mm.
endpoints, 24H2.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Mm.
even that I think might just be a bit silly. I think I recently saw that Windows 11 moving forward won't have the hard requirement for hardware like TPM, etc., to be able to install Windows 11 moving forward. I
Okay.
believe I spotted that, and I can try and find some info on it
Mm.
maybe for the next time around. But I believe there was a gap between a lack of, I guess, up to date hardware in Windows 11, where I think they're trying to bridge that gap to make this seamless. No different to 7 to 8 and 8 to 10. 10 to 11 also required you to have TPM 2.0 and a set of other things which a lot of people that don't buy laptops or
Mm. Oh,
Yeah.
specific
desktops, etc.
CPUs where it's stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
believe it's
But
the 8th gen series onwards in Intel and something else. You had to have latest and greatest
mm.
at that
Oh,
stage.
and people still pushed ahead and managed to get it installed in some
Yeah.
cases. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe, yeah. I got a
not
7700K,
not.
so it's good. I promise it's still good.
All right. And also in terms of important dates, probably a bit of a sneak peek into our next episode. I might throw it over to Shehan for this one.
Yeah. So I think we got our first guest coming up in the next show. Next episode, Merrill Fernando. So he's a program manager at Microsoft. I would like to call him as the identity guru. So we're definitely talking something exciting about identity. Maybe different streams on identity. So definitely looking forward to our next episode.
And I think that's an awesome segue into if you have any specific maybe questions that you'd want to be able to ask a product manager. Now's the best time to probably let us know what you'd want to maybe hear about, because we can see if we can tie them into. I think it's a bit of a special occasion to be able to have someone of such, I guess, knowledge within the Microsoft space. I guess come and hang out with us for a bit. So if you have anything that you maybe want to ask, anything that's really drilling you, things that you want maybe explained, yeah, just this will be on the YouTubes. I think Spotify has comments as well. I've never commented on Spotify or Apple Podcasts where you can see this video. But once again, this will be on all of our socials. If you have any questions for Merrill in this space, by all means, shoot them through and we'll.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one for sure.
Create a form for it. We can track it that way. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. And well, thanks all for watching and listening. And look forward to, I guess, seeing you all next episode.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.